Marvel Comics Senior VP of Publishing and Executive Editor, it's a long title, Tom Brevoort, has launched a brand new company for fantasy editorial, where people get to pretend that they are editors of their favorite comic companies, Marvel, DC, and Image. How can he do this and keep his job at Marvel? Well, that whole thing I just said is not exactly right, and some news stories are getting this wrong. So before you fly off the handle or wonder, when Tom Brevoort left Marvel, let me explain exactly what this thing is. Hey everybody, this is Perch. This is one of those cases where a fairly misleading headline got some people off to the wrong conclusion. A couple news stories were published talking about Brevoort kind of launching this company or this big initiative. And in reality, this is something he's done before. I think this is the third go of it, third or fourth, where he does kind of fantasy editorial with a small group of people on his blog. That's what this is. So what exactly is this game? Well, the concept, he's done it before, but he's laid out his rules on his website, which you can actually go see for yourself, I believe, at tombrevoort.com. Is that what we got? Yeah, that's it. When your domain is your own name, I don't know, it always seems weird to me. It's fine. I'm not, bashing anybody, but it always seems somewhat self-indulgent. I always think it's especially when you drive people to your name. It's like, I don't know. Imagine putting up a shop, because I view websites as that. You put up a store, and then that store has your name. It's like, I don't know. I'm picking at this point. Anyway, basically what happens is he is the dungeon master or comics master of all of comics. He's got Marvel, DC, and Image. He invites a small group of people, in this case there are 5, to come in, and 3 edit Marvel comics, the different lines, and 1 edits DC and 1 edits Image. And the idea is that he's going to throw different scenarios at them. He's going to receive pitches for kind of what these players want to do with their appropriate lines. Then he's going to decide which ones he will accept, which ones he won't. And then, in theory, he assigns out points or something based on, did this make money and everything else. Now, leaving aside the obvious joke of, is Tom Brevoort really the best guy to figure out what makes money or not? This has become a lot of noise about nothing. It's one guy with 5 players, so 6 total people. They're putting on kind of a little simulation of what editorial would be like. In theory, people then can watch and read it and say, oh, that's how somebody like Brevoort would make their decisions, or this is what a pitch would look like. It's hard to say is Brevoort going to make people kind of strictly adhere to how he normally takes pitches at Marvel? Is this reflective of how things work at Image and DC? No, but it's a game. It's basically a little blog exercise, really not much different from when your comic creator on Twitter says, name 5 things you like about me, whatever. So can this be instructive? Well, depending on your point of view, sure. It may be instructive in terms of how Marvel works. If you have really no concept of how editorial pitches happen and how you deal with certain scenarios. A scenario that Tom Brevoort laid out on his website was, you're managing a book written by Donny Cates. You've assigned an artist to Donny Cates. Donny Cates tells you he hates the artist. What do you do? And then sort of comically, Brevoort points out, if I tell you that, somebody doesn't like Donny Cates, it's just fantasy. Donny Cates probably really does like this person in real life. It's not real, which was just an odd, whatever. It's fine. Like I said, a lot of people are jumping to some conclusions that 1, Brevoort has left Marvel. He absolutely hasn't. 2, this is some big kind of like ESPN fantasy football type thing. It is not. It's, again, it's 5 people. That's it. And this isn't done with any cooperation with DC or Image, although in theory, nobody's going to file a cease and desist over this thing. Jim Lee has done this as well in the past. A couple of people. This isn't necessarily new, and I'm not sure why it got the attention it got today, but that's what this point is. So, taking all that aside, and the thing's going to run about 10 weeks, I think, is what it said. Although Brevoort says in his message that, he'll have the authority to make it go longer if he likes it or he wants to. And in theory, I think if it goes terribly, he could probably end it when he wants to. It's very much a homemade thing. So there you go. That's what this is. Now, putting all that aside, is this helpful? Well, that's a trickier question to ask. Again, it's all in the eyes of the beholder. If you want to peek into what it's like to be an editor, this might give you some of that. It's not going to give you the really kind of ugly bits that I would argue are probably the ones that are the big problems, meaning, hey, you have less money than you really should have to actually manage a book. Hey, due to circumstances out of your control, you can't ship this, or are you listening? Who are the different factors here? Are you listening to retailers? Are you paying attention to fan numbers? Who's making these sales things? It's a simulation with a limited amount of inputs. So if you're looking for some kind of general, here's how parts of editorial work, you'll probably get that. If you're looking for something more elaborate than that, you're not. As an aside, I had a nice little spot here where I was recording this video, and then suddenly some guy starts up a rotary saw and starts going to town on it. Anyway, there you go. I think that, the comic industry would benefit from more insight into what goes on. I'm not sure this is it, but it's not harmful. I think, you could make the argument, I might make the argument that, Tom Brevoort probably has really important things to do in his line to try and really curate things. And this feeling that I get out of Marvel, and this is just my feeling, but I know other retailers have similar thoughts, and is that, you have a lot to do during the day, right? Everybody deserves a hobby and some personal expression, but do you need more to do? Because I can come up with some things you can do. If you're looking to fill time in your day, I can come up with some ideas for you. I think that, I get this impression from Marvel a lot, and I think it goes to why Marvel takes more criticism than other publishers, is they are number one in the industry, but they're number one of a small pie. And I think many people look at it and say, you guys could be much bigger. You could be doing much better. You're number one, but you're kind of number one of a very small. You're like the big fish in the very tiny pond. And are you comfortable being that big fish, or do you want to try and grow that pond? And I think that's the impression that I get at times. And so stuff like this, it's on one hand, it's helpful, and I think it's good, and no knocks against it. I think any effort to educate people, give people insight, fine. This thing got overblown. But on the other hand, you get this feeling like Marvel is very confident in where they are in the industry, kind of their market leadership position, and it doesn't feel like there's people going, hey, we should be paranoid that our spot's in jeopardy, or we should be fighting really aggressively to grow that pie, or I don't know what to say about it. Anyway, what do you think about all this? Will you follow it? Do you like it? Leave your comments below. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications if you care to. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.